Hey everyone, Matron here, bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary, this time Game 3 of the Best of 3 series, featuring viOLet spawning as the Blue Zerg player, and Liquid Jinro spawning as the Red Terran player. We are on Antigua Shipyard, and this is part of MLG Providence, and this is basically a win-or-go-home situation for both of these players in this critical Game 3. We saw viOLet was able to even up the series one game apiece in that last game on MLG Dual Site. He used a nice late game Broodlord composition to fight the mech that Jinro had basically been building up the entire game, and Thors and Siege Tanks don't do so hot against about 10 Broodlords, which is what viOLet brought to the front door of Jinro. He was able to take down his natural and then work his way into his main while fighting off the Vikings Jinro was trying to come out with. So viOLet did a nice job in that game. The first game Jinro took on Xel'Naga Caverns. He had a really abusive bunker strategy at the very start, was able to take down the natural viOLet right away, and then sort of some back and forth through the mid game, but eventually Jinro was able to take down the third and fourth base for viOLet as well, and viOLet just could no longer trade with his Zergling and Roach mix, which he was trying to do in the mid game. So now we are in Game 3, and this is going to be Jinro's map choice. It's Antigua Shipyard, and this is the MLG version, meaning both players know exactly where the other is because they are spawning only in cross positions. Now that makes cheese a little bit easier. If you have some sort of bunker play or proxy play, you know exactly where your opponent is spawning, even though it's a very large map. So that could come into play here. We already see that Jinro has placed his barracks in his base, so he's not going to do any sort of proxy shenanigans. He does not have an SCV out on the field quite yet, but he could do some bunker play still, as viOLet did place down that 15 hatch, and I imagine he's going to get his pool up here shortly as well. We'll see if he goes for gas this time. In the first game he did not go for gas. Actually did go for gas right away. In the second game he did not. But he's done a nice job scouting ever since that initial first game where he did lose to that bunker pressure at the very start, or at least lost that valuable natural hatchery, and was pretty much behind in the early game because of that. We do see Jinro sending his first SCV across the way here, and I imagine he knows he's going to be seeing this hatchery, and he knows he's going to be seeing the gas and the pool down at this point. Pool a little bit late and the gas late as well, so viOLet just focusing on getting out those early drones. Right now up 2 harvesters at the moment, and it looks like the first Marine's going to be coming across the field with this SCV as well. So if this SCV chooses to place down a bunker or something behind or along the mineral line here, it could spell trouble. The creep about to start spreading for this hatchery, and it looks like viOLet does not want this SCV to do any sort of bunker play. He's pulling a lot of drones here, posturing, making sure that if it does throw down a bunker, that bunker will not finish. We do see the Marine here just chilling out, maybe hoping to catch an Overlord, and if the bunker did go up, I'm sure it would be heading right towards it to try to protect it. The SCV down to 10 HP, that's just not going to be enough. A second Marine has come across the field as well, but looks like those guys will be going home, and the SCV will as well. There's going to be a low ground command center being set up for Jinro at this point, so he is not going to be shy about showing the fact that he is going to be doing a Hellion expand. He's landing that factory on that reactor at this point, so going to be coming out with the double Hellions, and again, double Hellions, basically the current meta at this point. You get those 4 to 6 Hellions out, you're able to stop creep spread, you're able to shut down speedlings as they try to get scouting information, you're really able to delay a third as well, and a Zerg player basically forced to wait for speed and get a decent surround with a lot of lings, or do some sort of spine crawler push out with their creep, or go for a quick 2-base tech play where they go for mutas and they can kind of clean up those Hellions. But in the early game, it is just so annoying to have these Hellions out on the field, especially with slow lings. We see Metabolic Boost about to finish up, but that's not going to help those 2 lings as they are roasted. And we've got the first spine crawler and the creep starting to spread here for viOLet, and that's what you need to do. You need to keep your spine crawlers in front of your creep tumors, really punish those Hellions if they do choose to try to pick off those creep tumors as they are spreading that all-important creep. Right now, it looks like viOLet still has the lead 30 to 24 in terms of harvesters, but the second orbital command about to come up for Jinro, about halfway done morphing here, and he is dropping mules on this natural expansion. He has placed down a bunker with just a few Marines in it. And again, he only created those 2 Marines. He's been doing a lot of swapping here. He created a tech lab for that factory. So I imagine he's going to be going into the more standard Marine and Siege Tank route at this point. Looks like he has to clean up this Overlord here, but viOLet knows exactly what his production looks like at this point. He knows that he just has a factory, just has a rack, so no sort of big early 3 racks or Siege Tank pressure is going to be coming. Siege Tech has started. Typically we see a Siege Tank started before that Siege Tech, and it looks like a 3rd command center coming here from Jinro, so this has been more and more of a popular move as well. Terran's getting that quick 3rd command center. I know a lot of Korean Terrans are doing that as well. MVP, Bomber, and they're using it to drop mules, and then as soon as they feel like they're safe, they'll take that 3rd as well. Really get a rocking economy off 3 base, and using these Hellions, you can delay that 3rd base for the Zerg. We see a scan trying to take down creep tumors, and you see with these 6 Hellions out, there's nothing this pack of Zerglings can really do unless they get a perfect surround, which is going to be very difficult if Jinro is paying attention and stays off creep here. So he's already taken down 1 active tumor, and again, he's just posturing with these Lings. We do see the lair has finished for viOLet. He is on 4 gas at this point, and he's coming up with his Spire. So this is one of his options, is to tech quickly off of 2 base with the 4 gas there. So once he gets these mutas out, he's going to be able to clean up these Hellions, and he's also going to be able to expand to a 3rd, but already the orbital command is done for Jinro here, the 3rd one, so his economy and his mules is going to be basically way ahead of viOLet. Right now it is 50 to 38, but Jinro keeping pace in the mineral count just because of those 3 mules. viOLet really needs to get up onto a 3rd. It's hard to really afford lair tech off of just 2 bases. 4 gas really doesn't do it for you. And now viOLet's going to get his first peek at the base of Jinro. First thing he's going to see here is that there's no 3rd, and now he's going to see that Siege Tech has finished. There's a nice supply depot and a bunker wall here, so he knows no sort of bust is really going to work. And he might be trying to take a 3rd at this point. It looks like he will be sending a drone out to do that. And he's got 5 spine crawlers, so I'm not sure whether there was lack of scouting in the mid game that forced him to throw up those spine crawlers. Maybe he thought just a ton of Hellions were coming, or some sort of all-in off of 2 bases, but now he knows that, I believe he knows that there's a 3rd orbital. He does not, so he just thinks that there's 2 bases at this point. There could be that hidden 3rd he does not quite know about. He is placing these spine crawlers on the low ground, and definitely like this move. You can use them to, again, protect those creep tumors, and if you've got 5 spine crawlers, you might as well do this. We see a proxy or a macro hatch coming up here for viOLet as well. He's got the Baneling Nest started and Evolution Chamber, so he wants to be starting those upgrades, and we see the mutas on their way over to do some harassment of Jinro. Jinro has actually basically rocketed ahead, not quite ahead, but even in the SCV count, 53 to 53 drones now. And again, he's got those mules, so these Hellions trying to do their best to kite away from those Zerglings, and the Zerglings want to desperately clean those up. Jinro already has missile turrets here, so down goes 1 muta, a missile turret trade, not great for the Zerg player, and he's going to try to do some SCV harassment here as well, picking off a mule there, and just getting an SCV or 2, but already the missile turrets in place, and the Marines in place as well. They do not have stim, and they do not have their +1 that's about to finish, but viOLet losing quite a few mutas there does not do a lot of damage, and still has these Hellions to deal with. More mutas coming out for viOLet, also working on Baneling speed, his +1 armor, as well as +1 attack for the mutas, so I imagine he's going to be wanting to be very aggressive with those mutas. And the +1 definitely going to help him do that, and he is not on a 3rd base yet, so he really needs to get in here. It looks like here comes the drone to do that. Now that he's wrestled back map control from these Hellions with the mutas, he can basically take a 3rd and perhaps even a 4th base, floating a little bit of minerals. We'll see what his next move is here. He is going to be saturating this almost immediately, as he was oversaturated at his natural. We've got 64 harvesters to 59, now 65 for viOLet, and it looks like Jinro going to take this opportunity. He knows that viOLet probably going to be taking his own 3rd to lift up that orbital command and set up over here with these missile turrets, but viOLet in good position here to pick off these SCVs, so he's going to get 3 SCVs here for free. as well as that missile turret. I don't believe that was canceled, and Jinro going to have to move his army here to protect this third as it does go up, and that could open up his main a little bit to some harassment, though he has very nice missile turret coverage at this point. He's got missile turrets, at least 2 of them on the mineral line, and then he's got a few on his production and on his tech structures here. So an armory has finished. I imagine he's going to be coming out with a Thor or 2 to try to combat these mutas, and we see viOLet has not come out with too many more mutas. Right now he's just hovering around 11, so he is spending his gas and minerals on other things at this point. He is trying to get up that third, and I imagine he will be saturating it and getting up his 5th and 6th gas. And again, off just those 2 bases, it's tough to get a really high muta count. He is also keeping his presence known on the field here with these speedlings ready to counter, ready to make sure that a 4th does not go up for Jinro. Jinro desperately trying to keep these Hellions alive, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to be successful in that goal, as the Hellions being surrounded here by Lings, 2 of them being picked off, and it looks like 1 will survive. So at some point Hellions don't become so hot in the mid game, but Jinro has transitioned over here to Siege Tech and to Marines as well. He does have +1 for his Marines, and that's going to be very good against the 0-1 upgrades for Zerglings at this point. Really, for Zerglings to be effective against Stim Marines with combat shields, you almost have to be ahead in upgrades, maybe 2-2 compared to 1-1 or 3-3 compared to 2-2. This Hellion just going to be chilling out, trying to time this 4th, and now we've got more mutas finally coming out, up to 23, so viOLet just produced a ton of mutas here, and we'll see what he's able to do with those. He's going to try to do a little bit of harassment. He has yet to take down too many SCVs. He's killed 6 at this point, so that's not really worth it when you think of all this gas that has been used on these mutas. We've got double Thors coming out at this point as well, so Thor's going to do quite well against those mutas, especially if they do pack up, and viOLet's keeping his Zerglings and his mutas together here, hoping to do some sort of harassment, and these mutas might be able to take down this turret and maybe even get an army or the engineering bay. Engineering bay about to finish level 2 weapons, so that could be a big get. Getting that army also pretty huge, and it looks like a missile turret will go down as well, so that army going to prevent Jinro from getting any more Thors. So 2 Thors not going to be so great against 22 mutas if they are magic boxed. And now we see viOLet is maxed out. He's creating a ton of banelings, and again, those are speed banelings. He's done a decent job spreading creep here. He is about to get up his 4th as well. If we check the harvester count, it is 75 to 69. We see a drop coming in here, cleaned up beautifully by viOLet. I'm not sure that did any damage at all. And now we see viOLet pushing out to the center. He wants to keep Jinro from establishing that 4th base at the gold. Jinro does have a command center. It looks like that gold will be set up by the Terran player, and this can be very tough once they do get siege tanks and get Thors here into position. They can mine very freely off this gold base, so viOLet going to have to do his best to harass this, poke, take down a siege tank or 2, maybe even a Thor. Looks like he's going to poke in here, take a lot of losses though. Wow, a ton of mutas going down, 5 or 6 of them in fact. And viOLet really going to have to get on his horse, do some damage here. He's poking and prodding at this force of Jinro, but at some point he's going to have to choose to go in, and here it is. He's getting a nice surround with these Lings. He's going to try to pick off these siege tanks first and foremost. If he can get a Thor, that would be great as well. And he really needs to remax off this. 165, 152. He's done a ton of damage to Jinro's army here. Jinro trying to come up with another command center. We'll see whether he's able to get the orbital command before it gets into a planetary fortress. He will, so he's going to be able to take down that command center. There is another command center building here, but viOLet just doing a ton of damage to the army of Jinro. Jinro not in siege mode with this tank, going to lose that as well. And viOLet, I think, going to be pulling back here. It's 142 to 133, just a ton of damage there done by both players back and forth. But he was able to keep a lot of his mutas alive, and he's just remaxing with Lings at this point. He was able to take down those Thors and those siege tanks, and those are units which take a long while for the Terran player to remake. We see is just off the one factory here. Looks like he's got a second with a tech lab as well. So trying to produce siege tanks, those siege tanks so very important to control Zergling and Baneling numbers as you do try to set up these fortified positions. And he's not going to be able to come out with any Thors for a while. Looks like he does have 1 Thor on the field, but that's not going to be able to contend really with the number of mutas which are coming. Now we've got a Greater Spire and Infestors coming out for viOLet, so he is transitioning. He knows he traded well there. He was able to take down a planetary fortress before it was complete at the gold, and he was able to put pressure there and keep his Terran opponent on 3 bases. Right now he is on 4, and he is mining pretty well, 71 to 69 off those bases. So Jinro desperately needs to get up this gold to basically be even in the economy. Violet using some of those spine crawlers, landing him here. Not quite sure this is a great idea. They might be sacrificial spine crawlers, but he does have these infestors out. They have enough energy for that fungal growth. Now the Ling's doing a little bit of a run by here, trying to get into the production structures of Jinro. And if they're able to take down a reactor or a tech lab, even a tank or two, could definitely be worth it if you were trading just mineral units for gas units. That could be huge. Looks like Violet poking in here, trying to gauge what kind of setup Jinro has. He wants to know how many tanks are here. He does see that there are 2 tanks, so might not be pushing in here too quickly. He does have that Greater Spire is finished. It looks like he's establishing a 5th as well, so he might be waiting for Broodlords. A fungal goes off, pretty decent fungal, but there are medevacs, so no Marines will die because of that. And I think Violet needs to be maxing out. Here come the Broodlords. Those 9 Broodlords, going to be huge for him. We saw in that second game, as soon as he came out with those 10 Broodlords, and now he's got 10 on the way as well, the 10 Broodlords just destroyed Jinro's mech army. Jinro still has a lot of siege tanks here in good position. He's got the Thors. He's got a decent number of Marines, but with these infestors and fungal growth and the just the Lings to throw at those Marines, the Broodlord is going to be very, very protected. We do see a drop coming in here for Jinro, so he's going to try to go for the 4th here, and he might be able to take down a lot of the drones for Violet. So that could be pretty huge. We see mules being dropped on this gold. If we check the economy, it is 2,300 to 1,700, excuse me. And here come the Broodlords, and they're going to be able to siege from the high ground here. There are a few Vikings. Jinro needs to split those so they can't be fungal growth. Looks like he's doing a nice job of doing that now. 1 fungal growth goes down on the Viking, and the Muta's doing a nice job cleaning up those Vikings. Really need the Thor in position to try to take on those Mutas if they do clump up and try to take on those Vikings. And now we see the Lings coming in here, and we see a medevac picking up that Thor. He's going to try to escape to safety so he can be better positioned to take on these units. But these Broodlords just doing so much damage. Meanwhile, Jinro has taken down that 4th. A lot of drones have been transferred by Violet from that 4th. Jinro going for that 5th as well, but I'm not sure it's going to matter if Jinro loses this gold. And if Violet can get into the production structures, it's just going to be GG for Jinro. We do see a number of snipes going off here. There are some queens on the way as well for some transfuses, but still just a lot of Mutas and a lot of Broodlords here to basically mash through the forces of Jinro. That Thor does go down. These Vikings being cleaned up very quickly by the Mutas as well. All the Vikings now down. 1 more left. There are a few Corruptors out as well, taking on those Vikings. And again, these Broodlords, let's check it out. 10 Broodlords still. I'm not sure he's lost 1 even. So Violet just bashing through the front door of Jinro. These Marines being very ineffective, but huge fungal there, getting a lot of damage on those Marines, and having to come out with Vikings. All the medevacs are taken down, so Fungal's really big on the Marines at this point because there's no medevac healing. A Ghost is out, hoping to snipe a Broodlord or 2, but just so many Broodlords. It is 155 to 70. Jinro has taken down the 4th and 5th bases, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to contend with the standing army here of Violet. These Broodlords now knocking on the front door of the Natural, taking down the bunker and the siege tank, and there's the GG. Jinro losing this game and this series, knocked out of MLG Providence. Violet very, very impressive in the 2nd and 3rd game, basically biding his time, surviving any sort of harassment, taking back map control from those Hellions with those Mutas, and then eventually working his way up to Broodlords. We saw basically a repeat of that 2nd game where once the Broodlords came out, he pushed immediately with those Broodlords, all 10 of them. He didn't trickle in 2 or 3 at a time so the Jinro could get a bunch of Vikings up and basically contend with those few number of Broodlords. Instead, he came out 10 at a time, and at that point, it's just like a hammer that you lower on your Terran opponent. And if you can kind of control the early Viking count, then once you make it into the production structure, you can keep those Viking numbers from getting too high. The fact that he was able to position and take those Vikings down with the Mutas was very good as well. Typically, you lose control of your Mutas, and the Thors get a nice volley or 2. Those go down, and then it's tough to take on those Vikings. But Violet with great control here. He had those Infestors as well, some nice fungal growths, and he was able to take this game and this series on Jinro's map choice. So a pretty good series, lots of macro games back and forth, a fun one to cast. If you guys are looking for more StarCraft 2 action, MLG Providence action, make sure you check out my channel Matron StarCraft at youtube.com. Thanks for watching this one. Take care.